Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all between. Jason, my brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. We got some snow this week. You went and saw Michael Sweet. You went and saw an acoustic show, didn't you?
I did, yeah, last Saturday. Yeah, it was great. Down here at the Abbeville Opera House in Abbeville, South Carolina.
Right on, right on.
Yeah, nice little intimate place. Sounded great. Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, he's always good.
Yeah.
So what else is going on this week?
Just, working my exciting life, right?
Work.
Busy season's picking up, so with Christmas coming, so mail volume's up.
Absolutely. Speaking of mail volume, let's bring on our friend. You all know him. You all love him. It's Mr. Metalhead, Fred Bonanno. What's going on, Fred?
Good evening, rock and roll brothers. How are we tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Beautiful. Nice, crisp day out there.
Yeah.
So
tell us who we have in store tonight.
Well, tonight we have Randy Jackson, the lead guitarist and vocalist from the American rock band Zebra. Zebra, who was founded in 1975 in New Orleans, Louisiana, and features, and they still have all three remaining original members left: Randy Jackson, Felix Hahnemann, the bass, keyboard, synthesizer, and Guy Chelso on drums. In the early 70s, Jackson and Hahnemann played together in a bar band called Shepherd's Bush, which eventually evolved into Zebra. The name Zebra came actually from a magazine cover of Vogue magazine that they saw a woman riding on a zebra, and they named the band Zebra. The band moved to Long Island, New York, where they were discovered and signed to Atlantic Records in 1983. Their self-titled debut album became the fastest-selling debut album in Atlantic Records history, fueled by the two mega hits, Tell Me What You Want and Who's Behind the Door. Yeah. Zebra has been inducted into both the Louisiana and the Long Island Music Hall of Fames. Randy still keeps super busy. He still tours with Zebra and his solo act, of which he's appearing Saturday night in Chandler, Arizona. So let's welcome to CreatiVity Talkin, Randy Jackson.
Hey, guys.
Randy, how are you?
Doing okay.
First of all, Zebra has to be one of the best band names ever.
Oh, thanks.
And talk about, culture. Everyone, I had 3 Zebra shirts. Everyone, got addicted to the zebra stripes, and that's a big cultural thing. You know what I mean? Just to be associated via that. Sure. Jason's even got some special pants he's got there right next to him. Show him, Jay. Come on, Jason. Break out the Zumbas.
It's okay. Don't be ashamed.
Yeah, you got them.
Come on, we're family here, Jason.
Yeah, come on, Jason. They're right there. You can do it.
Oh, wow, man.
Absolutely. Right on.
Very cool.
So thank you for coming on. So sure. One of the things I'm really interested in is you started talk about seeing things coming. You went and did this MIDI tour.
Yeah.
Which basically I think you kind of set the framework for a lot of what bands do now just as a regular gig. As they're presenting that they're playing.
Yeah.
And that's another whole weird thing. So I'd like to get your perspective on it, because you came from it from a total different angle.
Yeah.
It
was really kind of therapy for me. What had happened was I just finished doing the solo record, my solo record, China Rain, and Atlantic had just finished telling me they weren't going to release it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the record sounded great, had great songs. It had nothing to do with the record. It had everything to do with just the timing. And Nirvana had been out for about a year at that point, and they just, they had spent it they spent like $250,000 making the record, but they didn't want to spend any money promoting it because they just, the last 6 months they had tried to promote acts that people, were aware of, and they had all just tanked.
Yeah,
right.
They just decided not to release the record. So I had spent really probably 3-4 years between the writing and the recording doing this record. And I was kind of couched for 2 weeks scratching my head as to what was going on. But I was watching TV late one night and I saw they were selling the Led Zeppelin box set, Atlantic
Yeah.
Records. And I had read for many years that Zeppelin refused to have a greatest hits package or anything like that,
Yeah.
And so I just said to myself, you know what? Because somebody had told me that Atlantic had been in the red for 2 quarters straight, which had never happened to them before. They were like last on the grunge bandwagon. And they must have made a sweet deal with Zeppelin to get him to do that,
Yeah.
So I just said, yeah, I guess they could toss me aside. So back to the MIDI thing, I kind of dove into doing something that I could do by myself and I didn't need anybody else to do,
Right.
And the band was still playing, Zebra was still playing, but this was kind of a therapy for me. So I was good at programming the MIDI stuff, and so I programmed the lights and I programmed the mix and I programmed everything for this little Mac, SE30, if you remember far back then, 1989, to run the whole show. And so I had a big PA system. I had keyboard and rack stuff all around me, and I controlled everything with my feet and played the guitar. So I'd play electric, acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
When I'd sing, the levels and the effects would automatically come in. I could stop and start the songs, wherever I wanted to. I could control the tempo if I wanted to, because it was all done by MIDI. If anybody knows about MIDI, they know it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And I went out and did it for a while, and it was nice. I mean, people liked it. They were impressed with it, especially the musicians. But what really wasn't, just the normal fans would come up and ask me about it, and the first question they'd ask is, "Where did you make your tapes?" I knew right then that it was like, no matter how much stuff I showed them, that get it,
They couldn't wrap their brain around it.
They really shouldn't anyway. That shouldn't be any of their worry. They're there to be entertained and watch a show. So, but it did show that, no matter how much technical stuff you have, they're really there to watch the performance and watch the person play, so that was what it was really about.
Yeah.
Like you must have made at that time a lot of heads turn. Like what the, like that probably challenged a lot of people the way that they looked at it.
Yeah, well, I knew Todd Rundgren was doing something kind of like it, but I think I took it to like another place because I was doing the lights and the mixing, and I actually went into a warehouse to do the lights, and even though I would have the lights exactly timed up with the music, they didn't react exactly, so I had to shift the whole lighting setup just slightly, and then the lights would arrive when the music arrived, and in most of the places that I play, and I learned a lot doing this, and then I'd been doing it for a while. My truck broke down with all the equipment in it, and the guy that I was playing for that night said, "Man, is there anything you can do? I mean, can't you just play like acoustic guitar?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come and do that." So I went and did the acoustic guitar thing, and it seemed to go over pretty well. It was a lot easier than lugging this equipment around. I mean, I literally had, a 20-foot box truck with the whole Zebra PA from the 70s and, everything else you could imagine in it, the lights.
Yeah.
So I scaled it down, but during the time I was doing it, this company got in touch with me and offered me a job, to sit at home, get some people, musicians that I knew to help them program an instrument they had come up with called the key. And so I said, "Well, that sounds good." I didn't have, there you go. You guys that might have been your next question, right? And that's it. And so they kind of took me, I put me in my house. I got a bunch of friends of mine from all around the country to do programming. And we were doing it at that time. The internet there was no internet. There was AOL and there was, your modem, with a phone hookup.
Right.
So we were transferring all the data by telephone line. You know,
Yep.
of course, it
Wow.
was still MIDI data, so it wasn't much at all.
Right. So
kill.
the reason why I'm asking you all these questions, I was
Yeah.
working on something. So my guitar player, who I had played with for years, I'd call him from LA. He'd be in Chicago, and we jam over the phone. And we're like, there's got to be. We're at the AOL goes through the phone line. Why can't what we're doing go through the phone line? So we
Right.
start developing something and keep going and keep going. He drops out day before big meeting. Day before big meeting, go to a party, sitting at a bonfire. This guy starts talking to me about the software he's developing, and it's the exact same thing I was working on.
Wow.
And they were piggybacking on a MIDI signal. So they did Herbie Hancock. Herbie was in London, and his whole band was in Vegas. And I came with the idea, well, if you're going to do the college circuit, you could have a 4 or 5 member band, and they could all play in different cities with the rest of the band behind them.
Right.
And so, like, there was a bunch of people. When I read that you were doing the MIDI thing, I'm like, oh my God, how many other people? But you actually had a working model.
Yeah. That
like
was
going
on the
out.
road. Yeah.
Everyone ripped you off. Like all these. I mean, can you imagine if you had a royalty on every trigger people used for lighting?
Well,
I'm sure other people are doing it, but you know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't take claim for all of that,
but you're in the mix.
People got inspired by what I did. I
Right,
mean, the technology was out there. I just put it together. It wasn't anything I invented at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Until I got with the Lone Star doing the key, everything was just me just put together, having an idea what to do with what I already knew. But with the key, we definitely went some wacky places.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about. I'm not familiar with the key. Can you explain a little bit what it did? Or
Yeah, I mean, if you put the picture there, you can see that it's kind of shaped like a guitar, and on the you have a little keyboard where the neck is, and you have those 6 plastic white things that are kind of like strings. We call them veins, and you have a bunch of buttons. So when I was first shown the key, the way that it worked was that you plugged in a video signal into the key. I mean, literally the video signal from a videotape. So back then it was all VHS tape, and you'd be watching a band, and the video signal would have in it like data that would turn into MIDI, translate into MIDI once it hit the machine. And then this MIDI, like a MIDI sound engine inside the key that would trigger when you strummed it. So it basically was like it was putting the chords underneath those strummer veins for you in time with the music, and all you had to do was strum. And you'd be playing along with the video.
Yeah.
And the neck part of it was we just put the neck into the key that the song was in. So you couldn't play a wrong note on the neck.
Right.
It did pretty much the same thing. And that was how they had it when I first arrived there. They had that thing, but they didn't have anybody that could really synchronize the stuff right. I mean, the chords were late, they weren't placed in the right spot.
Right.
And so they wanted me to come in there and do that. And then the thing plays by itself. If you put it back on the screen, you can see that if you push down, let's say you push down the key that's at the very top of the neck, just that one key. And then you strum, it would make a C chord. Okay. A C.
Yeah.
Anybody that knows the keyboard can see that, with those little black dots in the middle, that it's set up kind of like a piano. So, if you're looking at it from the top, that was a C. And if you push that one and the one next to it, the D, you'd make a C minor chord. And if you push the first one and the third one, you made a C7 chord. And if you push the first, the second, and the third, you made a C minor 7 chord. And if you push the 1 and the 4, and make a long story short, you could get 16 different chords out of the combination of the 4 pushing any combination of the 4 keys. And then you would go up. If you wanted to play a D chord, you just go up 1 note and just push it down by itself. And now you're playing a D, and then all the other ones above that, turn the D into a D minor, D7, and everything like that. So it's like a, an auto harp in a way,
Yeah.
But people that can't play music, it was great because now they have a bunch of chords at their disposal that they didn't have to figure out how to play, and they could just listen and write some music. And, and it turned out, we had gotten in touch with John Anderson from Yes, and he loved it because he played guitar, but not, that proficiently, I guess. And he used it to write 7 songs for an album he did because he just, loved, the way how easy it was to just find chords and stuff.
Right.
Sure.
And so that was another way that it worked. And then there was a third way it worked where you hooked it up to a DVD player. So let's say you had a DVD of Dark Side of the Moon from, 1985 or whenever the CDs came out. You could put that CD into your player and then run a wire from the CD player, the audio output now, not the video, into the key, and then we would have this thing called the ROM pack. It was like a little plastic piece that you put into the top of the of the key. It has a slot in it for it, and that thing would contain all the MIDI data for Dark Side of the Moon, but still it had to synchronize to the song. So we worked really hard on synchronizing the beginnings of albums to certain volumes that would come up. Dark Side of the Moon was a really big trick. I mean, a lot of records just start bang, that's easy. But when you've got that, the little drum coming up really, really slow, that was a challenge. But we did it. We got it to run, and you just play it all the way through Dark Side of the Moon. You've got the bass you can play. You can play on the bottom string. You can play the lead on the top string. You can strum chords with it. You can do all the keyboard stuff with it. And it's just another version of the video thing.
Right.
And do you think that the makers of this product saw it? Because that's pretty.
They might have seen it, but it doesn't. It's not really.
It's nothing to like, but when you look at it, people would go, "Oh, that would make sense."
It's a little plastic guitar. Yeah, it certainly resembles it. But that was, I think, the success of that was because it got your adrenaline going more. It was a game.
Yeah.
You want, and you got points, and you were, you didn't have to. You weren't trying to play music or anything. You were just pushing buttons and trying to hit the thing synchronized. So it was a little more relatable to, back then.
Yeah. Okay. So you brought up that it was a game. So what we did this big test at Sony Music, and we had G3 with us, and everyone was in different rooms, different studios, and we're showing the VP of Sony Music how it works. It's like you could literally go down a hallway and up to 27 people could sit in on that jam, but you had to knock on the door, ask permission, then be let in. Then you could jam with these people. Like, and then you could have, guitar lessons by Clapton, everybody, and they'd just be there. And they paid a subscription, like all this stuff, any instrument, all the greats, right? Okay. And then at the end, we do it. They do a whole performance in 3 different studios, and the vice president of Sony Music goes, "Awesome! How do you win?" And that's why there is no music business anymore. It was so crazy, but at the same time, Mick Fleetwood was coming into I worked at a software company that were doing this. And remember when he would do the drum solo?
Right, all over his body with the triggers, yeah.
Yeah, so he had the prototype for that. So he comes in, and we had it set up where it's going to be a kind of like a game to write music. All you needed was a keyboard, and you played rhythmically. So every part of the keyboard was a different note. You didn't have to know anything about music. And I thought that was so cool, much like the key.
Yeah.
Where that could get you into buying a stringed instrument or joining a band or getting lessons or,
Yeah.
It's because a lot of people are just afraid. But if they, you know what happened when you made your first chord?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hooray.
exactly. So, you know, you can't get much better than that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a signature model, 12 string, correct?
Yes. Michael Kelly, and had, I think I went through 3 prototypes of this thing.
That
Oh,
is
wow.
sweet.
Gorgeous.
Thanks. Yeah, it was the bridge that I was the most concerned with. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to budge. And the
Yeah.
guitar's not real expensive. I think it runs, retail around $600,
Oh, wow.
but the bridge, I played one for a year, and finally the bridge started coming up, and we changed the bracing. We changed the bracing twice on the thing. And the third guitar was the one that it stayed, and it's been great ever since. I haven't had any issues with it at all. You can see that there that the you don't need a pin. You don't have to push pins in. You just
Right.
string and just tuck it in where the hole is there, and
Nice.
so it's cool. And I also when all the guitars usually have a treble, a bass, and mid, and people like half the people I see are like, and I learned from the key that make it simple and
Right.
so they can get what they want quick, and that's what I did. So there's a button, that you can either have the button out, which is just flat, the guitar is flat, or you can push it in and have the EQ that I like.
Hey, yeah.
That's the only choice you have.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
That is a sweet looking guitar, man.
It is.
yeah, that's another model there, right? That's a
Oh, is
yeah.
it? It was under your signature one on the image search.
Yeah, it's that's the 6-string model. Now you see how the wood's different on this one, right?
Yeah.
Well, we went through all the different veneers that we could possibly put on the thing, and the one that sounded the best for the 12-string was the one that you're seeing that I'm playing there. That veneer and it was amazing how much that made a difference in the sound.
Yeah.
The resonance and everything else. One thing I did like about the guitar that I didn't design it, but Michael Kelly was known for, was not having the sound hole underneath the strings.
Yeah.
And just having it above, because it really reduces the amount of feedback that you might get when you're playing through a sound system, PA system.
Okay.
You won't get the guitar just roaring,
Right.
not as easily. I mean, it can, but it doesn't. So pretty easy time with it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful guitar.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
And so how long were you working with the different veneers? Jason's building guitars, so he's getting into all the different woods of resonance and all this stuff.
Yeah.
We went through, I think I had 6 different prototypes. I mean, they were coming quick, and we were just listening to them.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't out banging on them,
Right.
Yeah.
We figured that out pretty early on. So the prototypes I was playing for a couple of years were that wood there, which I don't even know the name of. It's from Africa, and it's a name I can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I should know, right? But it's a secret. It's like McDonald's
Right, exactly.
secret wood.
Yeah.
But it's a great guitar, and and it stays in tune. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Right.
and I love the cutout too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's different.
It's got a good cutaway. You can really get up on the neck really easy.
Yeah.
And, so I'm happy with it. We're working on a 6-string now, and that's pretty interesting. We're getting a new prototype of that one back. I think for this Friday.
Okay.
No, day after tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Zebra first popped, so you started out in New Orleans, and then you started getting a lot of gigs around Staten Island. Is that correct? Or
Long Island.
Long Island. And then you moved up there because that's where the work is. And then MTV pops, and you just happen to be there with the great song. I mean, how because you have an interesting thing, because you, right when the music videos popped, and then you did the thing with the MIDI thing. So you have like a different experience, I think, than most do, you know, as far as being at a certain point?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting the record deal at that point was just lucky, you know,
Yeah.
because we just happened to get our record deal when MTV was starting,
Yeah.
and it was kind of strange because there was nobody knew what to do. Even the directors didn't know what to do.
Right.
It was the wild west back then, and
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
yeah, but we would go in. The director would usually draw up a storyboard themselves and then just bring it in the day of the shoot. If we had any real problems with it, we, you know, say our 2 cents. But mainly, that was the way it was pretty much going to go
Yeah.
for the videos. But they were fun to do.
So did you have any mention, or did they just tell you this is the music video budget? This is what you guys are doing. Shut up. Here's what we're
Well,
doing.
they shut up, but they did. They probably wanted us to shut up. You know?
Right.
I
Well, I mean, like, did you have any word in like the size of the budget? Because you, of course, have to pay that back.
Yeah. No, we weren't thinking about that. We, whatever budget they thought they needed to do it. And, like I said, that nobody really knew anything at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
They were experienced making commercials and movies and TV shows, but this was a little bit different.
Mhm.
And they were getting directors they were looking for people that were really kind of creative and off the trail.
Yeah.
And so the budgets were, anywhere. Ours were anywhere from like 30 to 75,000 each.
Mhm.
The 5 videos were made, and we had input to it. We had one. I know when we did the Bears video during the
Mhm.
second record, we were out in Los Angeles, and Marty Callner was the director of the video, and he had already done a ton of videos at that point. He worked with HBO for years doing live shows,
Mhm.
and we had the script. We had looked it over. Marty had given to us in advance. It looked great. There were going to be a bunch of bears, and it was. I don't even remember really what the storyline was, but when the girl who was the prop manager came in, she had Dancing Bear from Captain Kangaroo. Okay, do you remember that? It's literally
Mr. Green Jeans.
yeah, Dancing Bear, and Marty went nuts. He says, "You're joking, right? You're joking." so it's like it's in the morning, and if you're in LA and you're looking for props, that by 11 o'clock it's too late to get anything. You needed
Right.
it last week,
Right.
Yeah.
But we went out and begged and borrowed and got one bear costume, that was decent, and so we changed the whole script. And we put our road manager in the bear costume. And he sweated his butt off all day.
Right.
And we just, we year by year, we just rewrote the script as we went along.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So MTV.
Yeah.
So you obviously saw the benefit from it as well.
Sure. It was new. It was different. The kids were watching it. They were into it. Radio was great, but video was better.
Right.
Get in heavy rotation on MTV. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so then you guys are touring for a while, you're putting out albums, and then you stop.
Yeah.
Was it just grunge came in and killed everything, or was it?
Grunge wasn't around at that point. This was
Okay.
1986.
87. Okay, gotcha.
So when we did the first record, we had all the material for it. It was ready to go. We had
Mhm.
playing that and a bunch of other songs live for like 8 years at that point. And the fans had kind of told us what they liked the best, and they had every bit, as much to do with picking the songs as we did for the first record. And then, we went out on the road with Loverboy, opened up, and REO Speedwagon, Cheap Trick. We opened up for all those bands, and it was great. Sold a lot of records with the first album, but the whole time continuing to party like we did in the 70s, or I did anyway.
Right.
And so, but I know I've got enough material for the second record, and we get off the road, and now we got to do it, and
Right.
so I'm going through the material and I'm putting the songs together, but I'm really starting to realize that, this record isn't going to be like an album of songs. It sounds like they should have been all on the same record. There's a big wide
Difference.
variety of material, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, for the third record, I said, I'm going to just stop the partying, which I did, and just write while we're on the road. And I did. And so I wrote the entire, except for one song, which was Hard Living Without You. I wrote that entire third album while we were on the road, probably wrote about 40 songs that we picked from. And that was the point at which Atlantic said, see ya. That was the end of it. Now, what happened? Well, we decided we wanted to produce the third record ourselves. And we had done the demos, you know, that had been played on the radio station here on Long Island that had actually gotten us the record deal. So we knew, you know, we could do it. And Atlantic said, well, do a couple of songs. We'll listen to them and see how they come. So we did Can't Live Without from the third album and You'll Never Know. And they came out great. They sounded
Great
good.
songs.
Yeah, they said, fine, you guys go ahead and do it. In the meantime, they had said that Bruce Fairbairn was very interested in producing the third Zebra record, you know?
Yeah.
But we were determined we were going to do it. Now, Bruce had produced Loverboy, and
Right.
so I think he was familiar with us through them. And
Legendary producer too. I mean, you know,
so which album do you think he goes and does? Because we tell him we're going to do it ourselves. Which album is it? Yes.
1986.
1985, 86.
1985.
Michael Jackson. No, not
Sports?
No, I'll tell you. It's Slippery When Wet.
Bon Jovi.
Wagner did it. Okay, gotcha. Wow.
So we go on the road in the middle of this big Bon Jovi explosion.
Yeah.
And we're getting asked at the radio station, says, well, what do you guys think about this Bon Jovi thing? You know, Secret was the last thing that they were, yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, we don't hate it as much as Aldo Nova, but you know.
Well, look, you know, it was a great record, and you know, in hindsight, it might have been great to have Bruce Fairbairn produce our record, but also, who knows what would have happened? You might not have had Slippery When Wet. You know, I mean, Bruce put all those people together, the writers and everything together to make that record. So, you know, it was meant to be. You know, and we were not meant to be.
Right. And it's amazing too that all the bands that you mentioned Cheap Trick, they're still touring. Loverboy still touring. They're opening up for Sammy and the Van Halen tribute thing. Yeah. And there was another band. All these bands were around way before you, still touring.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, the fact that Kiss, you know, people are like, oh, Kiss will come back. I'm like, dude, how do you come back at like, you know, at 75 like that? You can't. I mean, you know, with all that gear and everything, you know what I mean? Like if they're a recording band, sure.
That's kind of tough, but you know, I think, you know.
But I give those guys total credit, you know.
There's certainly, I mean, this is 2023. There's certainly ways to make that stuff lighter. You just
oh, right, for sure. But still, you know, it's kind of funny seeing like the, you know, stuffed animal spikes rather than the real, you know. But, you know, but hey, you know, a lot of people give them shit. You know, more power to them. You know. Yeah. I mean, look at all the performers that never in a million years did we think the metal guys would all survive.
Yeah.
Like the heart, you know, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That they have it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Talkin 73, Sammy Hagar 72, all and top notch, you know, and now it's interesting seeing all the younger guys now that, you know, we're doing this back in the music on the peripheral. It's interesting now they know at 20 that they can still be doing this in 50 years. They know now.
Yeah.
And I think it's creating a totally different set of music coming up because they're measured.
Yeah. And, you know, we certainly
speaking, Randy, and I got to say hi first of all from Tommy Race in Arizona. He wants me to say hi to you, and his daughter's looking forward to being on stage with you Saturday night.
Tommy's the best.
Yeah. Vince was talking about all the bands coming around, and I see a lot of concerts, and you know, I see bands from the 70s and 80s. There's one or two original members. It's always amazed me that you guys from Zebra, you have the 3 remaining members still. And
amazing.
What do you contribute to that? You guys are still together since 75.
Well, I mean, being together is one thing, but being alive is all three of us being alive is just
Right.
ridiculous, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we've always gotten along. I think after the first 5 years of any band, you know, you pretty much know what you can expect from the other members, and
Right.
you either want to continue or you don't. And you know, we were only three people, so it was pretty easy to make decisions. There weren't a lot of fights in the band, and you know, we all had pretty much the same idea about what we wanted to do, and you know, and the fans just kept coming, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps bands going, you know.
Yeah, I grew up in upstate New York, and I mean, you know, when I was young guy, you know, playing, I had older guitar player friends that were like, you know, you got to check Zebra out, you know, because you guys were well, you know, well known in that area, and so I've been a fan since I was probably 14, you
Wow,
know, um,
long time.
and you know, great clubs too, like the Chance in Poughkeepsie. I heard it recently. I'm in South Carolina now. I've been here about 20 years, but I just heard that it recently closed down, and I thought, man, what a bummer. You know, it was a great place.
Legendary place, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to do with the property, but it
yeah,
sounded like it was pretty final, you know, the way what
yeah,
I was hearing anyway.
You know, one of the things that found interesting, you know, you guys are a trio, and we found, so me and Jason started doing tunage where we react to new bands that we're finding because, you know, the whole thing, all rock and roll is dead. We didn't want to believe that. So we started looking for, you know, as an older guy, you know, life happens, you have kids, you don't know what comes out every week or whatever.
right.
So we start finding all this great music. And about 3 months into it, we're like, dude, all these are trios.
Yeah.
Like they're all power trio. Like the power trios come back. One, I think, out of financial necessity because it's so expensive to tour. I think that has something to do with it because it's one less plus one on everything.
Three divides better into anything.
Right. Right. So, but it's very interesting. And, you know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's only a trio." Yeah, but if you can fill, as you know, I mean, you write for trios seem to fill the spaces better than a 4-piece or a 5-piece, and I don't know why.
That was always our gimmick from the get-go. I mean, my idea was to, you know, we wanted a singer, actually. We looked for a singer, but we couldn't find anybody during that time that wanted to sing with us or that we wanted to sing with us.
Right.
And so we all just kind of shared the singing when we first started, but it was always the idea to be, okay, we're three monkeys with the grinding thing, you know, what the zebra is, you know.
So
Right.
you're trying to tell me with your vocals, you're defaulted to the singer?
I defaulted. Yeah,
Yeah, you said you're looking for a singer with your vocals. How could you have not been, boom, I'm the singer?
oh, because I wasn't singing then, you know. I mean, you know, you talked about the Shepherd's Bush, right? And you know,
Yeah.
Shepherd's Bush actually only played like 2 shows. We didn't
Oh.
even we didn't even do any covers. We did all originals. It was all Felix's stuff, and he was the lead singer in the band. And I just played guitar and sang a little backup vocals. So when we got together, Guy and I got together, and then we got Felix into the band later. Guy had a great voice. He's got a really powerful voice. And Felix, of course, he could sing. So we just shared, you know, we played like covers by like 60 different bands. I mean, it was nuts.
Wow.
But as we went along, people just wanted to hear more and more Led Zeppelin. And we each did do Zeppelin songs. You know, we each sang, you know, depending on what song it was. And but I ended up just singing them because I just had the higher, stronger falsetto. And it was just, you know, that was the default, you know, okay, he's going to do that. So when I was writing the songs and I wrote most of the material, I would end up singing them. And, you know, it just kind of happened on its own, you know.
Yeah.
I know you did a Beatles tribute album, Empathy for the Walrus, which was all Beatles covers.
Yes.
I'd love to hear you do a cover of some Zeppelin. I'll bet you'd nail Zeppelin.
Well, it would be, you know, I mean, closest we came to that was doing the Ocean on the Wall album. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's always possible to do a Zeppelin thing. but I was approached specifically to do the Beatle thing by the Red River Records, and being the huge Beatle fan that I am, I said absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed doing that.
So one of the podcasts or YouTube channels, however you want to look at it, that I listen to frequently is Kenny Aronoff.
Yeah,
and
Aronoff.
you got a phone call one day from him to join Jefferson Airplane. What was it like playing for Jefferson Airplane? I mean, that's a pretty badass,
It was just magic.
And we all are. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was the at that time the Starship had been out for years at that point, and the airplane was just a distant memory, but they decided to get the original band back together again. And that's the band I remembered, from the 60s. I had the singles, Somebody to Love and White Rabbit and all that stuff. And so I was thrilled just to, see these guys, meet these guys, they were like
in that sandbox.
Yeah. Huh?
And playing that sandbox.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different world than the Beatles and the Led Zeppelin and all that.
Right.
Like a San Francisco, the 60s counterculture revolution. And it was like, okay, I'm going to meet some people. And I did,
Right. Yeah. The pinnacle of psychedelia for sure, was those guys.
Backstage, I think it was in Los Angeles, and, June Lockhart is backstage. She's a big airplane fan, and I'm going, Lockhart. Yeah, it was just like kind of like a weird, as a, I'm a little kid watching all these shows, and the last person I'd expect to see at a Jefferson Airplane show would be June Lockhart.
Right.
Really digging it. And then, I got to meet Bill Graham, which I probably would have never met. God only knows how many shows he actually went to at the Fillmore West back then.
Mm-hmm.
But he was there for that Jefferson. I think we played 6 days at the Fillmore West.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they brought in the grease lighting stuff. Do you know about that? How that worked? When you were in elementary school, you had the projectors?
Oh yeah.
Put the big, photos over the top, and it would project on the screen. Well, what they did back in the day was they would take like paint and they would put it on top of the screen and just move it around, and that would make all the psychedelic stuff up. And so they brought all that stuff out for the Fillmore West shows, and so they had these people doing the whole thing, and it was just like, wow, here we are, Austin Powers,
Totally. I had a situation similar to that. I was doing a commercial and we needed Tesla coils.
Yeah.
Well, we got the ones from Frankenstein and Young Frankenstein.
Wow.
It's a father and son who own them. They're from Czechoslovakia. He was 93 at the time, and his son was like the young buck at 72. And I was a special effects guy, so I got to hang out with these guys for 3 days and hear all these like great, but it was the same piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Just like looking up at that screen, it's like, how cool.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't get it. It'll go, a lot of people right over their head. But for those who knew, that's totally cool. Just like Sabbath with their trippy shit with the background,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are the pioneers, are the ones that came up with the concept of just doing it to begin with, and everybody else was stimulated,
Right.
Yeah, that had to be a thrill,
And the amount of stories that you can't repeat on this show or any other, I'm sure, are just totally classic because of, I'm sure you heard a lot of great ones,
Well, I mean, they didn't reveal as much as they could have, I'm sure.
Right.
They did tell me that things were crazy back in the day, but for the most part, everybody was pretty straight, as far as drinking and any drugs. Paul Kantner was still, doing his thing, but not to the point of, getting wasted. And Grace was completely, sober the whole time.
Yeah, I've always loved her. She's always been a cool.
The notorious Grace.
There's only one. He
was just a sweetheart, and I just had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she just had a birthday, I think, like 2 weeks ago. She's painting, doing the whole thing. She's really cool. I dig her a lot.
Yeah.
And I love when she just starts talking because there ain't no stopping her, as it should be. You know what I mean? And people are always shocked by it. I'm like, Well, if it was a dude saying it, you wouldn't,
Yeah.
Right.
She's got some stories.
It was way ahead of her time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the stories that didn't make her book.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. You had Yorma and Jack, who were just a lot of fun. I mean, and they all had a great sense of humor. And
Yeah.
Marty was still alive then and doing the shows. And and then with Kenny, Kenny was the only person that wasn't original, was the drummer, and Kenny was filling in for him. And we had a blast.
He's amazing. Is he like that 24/7? Like, does he have that? He's just a force of nature kind of guy.
Always he wakes up in the morning and he's going. And he's got that
intensity,
infectious,
big time. Yeah.
Like I just picture myself. There's no way I could be lazy if he's in the room. You know what I mean? Like,
I said, Kenny, man, you got so much energy. He says, listen, man, you have no idea how much energy I have. I have to jerk off 3 times in the morning just to be civil.
Yeah, there's a reason why all his girlfriends have pulverized hips, but holy moly. Yeah, that guy's great. I mean, so how is he to work with? He seems like he sets a great tone,
Yeah, I mean, when you get with professionals and that everybody knows what they're striving for, usually there's not going to be any egos getting in the way, or I need to do it this way, or I got to do it this way. And that's the way Kenny is. That's why he's so easy to work with producers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do remember I did a record with him after we did the tour, and it was an artist on I forget what label, maybe Arista, and I was doing some guitar tracks, and Kenny was doing the drums, and the producer at the time said, "Come here, I want you to hear something," And so we're in the studio, we got the big speakers, and Kenny's playing, to this click track, and he says, "Listen to this," and so he's got the drums playing, and then he brings the drums down and he turns the click up, and then he's got the click just blasting. I mean, just the click blasting, and then he says, "Now listen to this," and he turns up the snare drum, and the click disappears.
Wow.
Put the click cranked. I mean, it was like he says, "This is how it works." That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, just like there's that story about recording. What was it? Back in Black. They needed to do a punch in on the drums. They're like, just play it. I'll get it. And they're like, what? No, there's no way. And and he got it. You can't even tell. They call him the human click track.
Yeah.
That guy's crazy.
The problem with doing a drum, thing is that the cymbals are always, going over.
Bleeding. Yeah.
Well, they're going to ring over. So if you punch between, even if you punch between, you may hear a phasing between the cymbals, but evidently it must have just been a hat. They punched it in the middle of a hat thing where nothing was there.
Right.
Seconds. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays with Pro Tools, of course, no problem. But holy moly. So so then in what you guys Zebra got back together.
Well, we never did
2006.
We have been playing since 1975, and we have played every single year.
Oh, okay.
75. We've never missed a year where we didn't do some shows, and so people think we broke up because we weren't around. We weren't coming to Peoria, Illinois, in quite a long time. But we just kept doing what we had been doing in the 70s, going really mainly New York, New Orleans, go to Texas.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally, and then Florida, but just living at home, and so we'd get to playing. Now you're saying 2006, right? Did you just mention that?
Yeah.
What was the significance of that date?
Let's see, 2006. Didn't you do something? You did sang the national anthem, maybe?
Oh, okay, yeah. I did that several times in New York at the
Chase Stadium.
That's games, yeah.
That's okay. And then Louisiana Music Hall of Fame in 2010, and then 2012 Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Very flattered that Long Island made an exception. We didn't have to be from here to get the award, so that was great.
Yeah. And then you worked on Mr. Boland's Late Night Revival, which is a compilation of 17 previously unreleased tracks written by guitarist Tommy Boland prior to his death in '76. Includes hi-fi superstar Doogie White, Eric Mighton, Troy Luccketta, Jeff Pilson, Rachel Barton, Rex Carroll, Derek St. Holmes, who I think has one of the best
he's awesome
soul voices ever. Kimberly Dom and the 77s. So how was that working on?
Well, I mean, I did it all, right here in New York in my studio, and Rachel played the violin on it, and we never even got together in the studio. It was all done just mishmash, and but it came out great, and the song was nice. It was just a shame that there were so many songs he had that he never got to record himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Holmes is, exceptional. And it's too bad, like I was having this conversation the other day. I'm like, it's too bad there's a whole chunk of people who will totally just shit on Ted Nugent's music because of his mouth. Yeah. Whatever he says is whatever he says. He's got the right to. But the people, I mean, Ted Nugent put out some great music.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Derek St. Holmes. I mean, holy moly.
Well, I mean, like one of my favorite songs from the '60s was, what was it?
Well, Hey Baby is my favorite Nugent song.
Are you thinking of Great White Buffalo? You going back to Amboy Dukes days?
Further, I'm going back to it's like almost sounded like the Moody Blues. To Journey to the Center of Your Mind was the name of the song.
Oh, yeah. With the Amboy Dukes, yeah.
Come along if you can.
Oh, yeah.
I do remember that one, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that one.
That's
a great song.
I mean, completely different, style than you're used to hearing him play. But that was the first time that he had any success with any commercial music. It was a really, really great song.
Yeah, and it's so funny too. Like we talk to artists and people who have done their craft for decades, and the people, like, I'll talk to young musicians now, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm paying my dues." "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, I tried out for American Idol."
Yeah.
Like,
paying my dues.
Then what? "Oh no, that's me paying my dues." What?
Well,
I don't think they have the opportunity to play 4 sets of 45. Anywhere these days.
Back in the day when you had to play 4 sets, I mean, all you had was like the 10-pack amateur hour, So,
yeah, right.
Not many people were going to go on that, compete with a little 10-year-old dancer.
Right.
Sure.
I actually, I had some, a couple of younger people, friends of mine's kids that came to see me at a private party about 20 years ago. And, and they said, you've been in the music business. What would you advise? And that's what I advised. I said, if I was in the business right now, what I would do, if I were you two guys, I'd go try out for American Idol. And one of them, the girl started crying. Like I had just like completely ruined her, view of music, the other guy was like, okay, he just kind of took it in stride. Years later, they both ended up being, either on American Idol or The Voice. And doing well on both. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty crazy, but I mean, that really is, a way to get quick.
For sure. And here's the best way to do it, boys and girls all in between.
Yeah, but the
come
guy
in second. Don't come in first. You won't get the.
No.
Yeah.
You
get a better deal if you come in second.
You can marry David Foster.
Right.
So, but one of the guys, Adam, he is playing all the time in Louisiana, and I mean, he's still done well, but he plays all the time, solo acoustic, and great voice, great song, still writing and still at it, So, I think, should just think that they come on that show and they go off and, they go to McDonald's after that. That's not really the truth. A lot of them
Right.
are musicians and were
Yes.
were
Oh,
committed
for
to it
sure.
before they even went on. But the
Right.
fact that that's available is a great thing, you know.
Yeah, it was always weird that Adam Lambert was able. He's a great singer. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not discounting but he came from Broadway,
Uh-huh.
so he was already a working professional. So to me, that I thought it was for people who I don't know the rules, but
Well,
but he's great with Queen.
yeah. I mean,
You
now
know?
I don't think there's any age limit anymore, is there? I don't.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, and
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. I think they eliminated that, so that was
Yeah.
my only issue with it. You couldn't
Yeah,
be
'cause
any,
they had an older guy come on. He was like 40 or something. He just killed it. People are like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, they've
Yeah.
got 20 more years on them."
Yeah. If the music's good, they can succeed, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always understood the record companies wanting to get, the look, the youth, and all that stuff. It made business sense, but
Right.
so many talented people, that just
Yeah.
grow older and keep doing it, and are just phenomenal and lost in the sauce. But we all do it because we love it, no matter what
Yep.
level we're doing it at. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we see older performers and we're like, man, like maybe, do something where you don't have to sing that high or, what I mean? Like there's a few people out there that, widely know, everyone knows there's issues, but they're still singing live. They're not singing to a track. So I give them that,
yeah, they're still making money and people want to see them, and they don't really care. They're there for the experience. I went there. I got to see him. A lot of them never got to see whoever it is. I mean, imagine if Elvis was still alive. And he
Oh
said, "Crappy, would you care?"
Right.
No.
Probably not, but,
Okay.
like people always, original Van Halen's one of my favorite bands of all time. And people always give Dave shit. And I'm like, he's not singing a track. It's
No.
mostly younger people. I'm like, you're used to when you go and see a show, they're not singing.
Yeah.
Like the bands that you're seeing, the person I'm talking to, they're all singing a track and dancing. The dancing's more important than,
Yeah.
So like you don't get you're missing something there,
Yeah, you're watching the dancing, and to dance and sing at the same time is a near impossibility. I mean,
Right.
You could see by the drummers that do it. They've got to they can't be smashing the drums and singing. You got to have some control. So
yeah, and you've toured with Sammy Hagar, and that his voice is still impeccable. I mean, he doesn't have a massive range, but he doesn't need it because he's Sammy Hagar.
yeah, well, his tone has always been great.
Yeah.
He was a completely different, singer and performer than David Lee Roth, and
Oh, for sure.
I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah.
Because David was just, he was definitely entertaining. I mean, he,
Oh yeah.
Right.
it was him not taking it so seriously that made it so attractive with his style. And Sammy, he's coming in, full balls to the wall. I sang Rock Candy, and I'm going to come blow you away.
Right. To me, Van Halen with Dave was like Led Zeppelin meets the Three Stooges. Because they had that whole, not taken seriously. And of course, I mentioned it before. They came from jazz rather than they're rooted in jazz playing rather than blues through England.
Yeah,
and that's what made their whole sound different. But so when I got married, my wife at the time was a huge Bon Jovi. Well, that was her big band. So Slippery When Wet. That's why I'm bringing it full circle to that. She's like, best that is that. And I'm like, have you ever seen? No, I've never seen. Okay, so worldwide tour, heavyweight champs of the world, Sammy and Dave. Go take her this, and I take her to that show. And halfway through the show, she looks at me. She goes, "Okay, I get it now." Like, because I was always like, best friend. Like no one could ever touch him at his time.
right.
He was just so outrageous. He was a comic book character.
And people like him. Dee Snider is another one.
Dee Snider's amazing.
He just he puts on such a show, and he's like, and here's a guy that he may not be dancing, but he's moving around and he's singing.
Oh,
So you got to take your hat off to him for that. I mean,
he's always 120%.
Yeah.
He never calls anything in.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see all these older performers. Like who's it? Someone hurt their finger and they canceled like 3 dates. David Lee Roth literally cuts his nose open on live television, puts some duct tape on it, and finishes the show.
Yeah.
You know, the show must go on. I think that's probably not happening as much as it did back in the day.
Maybe not. I mean, some of these people are probably being insured, and their managers are saying, they're going to raise our insurance if you don't come off the stage now. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Well, especially since the pandemic, if you cancel a show, I think they tag you for the next 3, depending on who you're. So everything's changed. It's way more expensive. Diesel's through the roof.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy, I have one Guitar Geek question for you. Do you still have the white BC Rich double neck?
Yes, I actually have it downstairs.
Nice. Always loved that thing, man.
Yeah, I've got it. I just played it I played it up here in New York at the Paramount when we played, and what was the show we did after that? And I am so brain dead. Anyway, I played it at a couple of shows. I played it in Louisiana and up here.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Right on. So I saw you mentioned in an interview, it says in 2022 that there's a possibility of new Zebra music coming. Is there an update to that?
Yeah, it's happening, and Guy and I have been working on it first before we bring Felix into it. Working on the, laying out the, the framework for the songs. Of course, we're recording. Every time we do a record, the technology is completely different because it's usually years in between. So, and of course, being the geek I am, I want to take advantage of every little craziness I can. And so we've been doing it over Zoom because Guy lives down in Louisiana, and it's been working out great. He does a lot of videos with the drums, teaching and stuff. He wrote a book, and the sound is just awesome right now. He's got it all just dialed in. So we don't need to do anything except just let him play the drums where he is.
Yeah.
And overdub the stuff in other places, but it works.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is great. I mean, we literally for Thanksgiving, we covered, since we brought up Jefferson, we covered a cover during the pandemic that they did through Zoom of Jane. And it's with Jelsenik, Portnoy, and Hoaxer. What an amazing performance of that song.
Yeah.
I mean, the song was strong originally, but holy moly. They just put some, all fantastic.
Such great players, it's great players with a great song. With it can just make it like crazy. I mean and I really think that has a lot to do with Zeppelin's success. Is that the songs were good, but they could make anything sound good.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It was just, their musicianship and just what they add to it, and it's the same thing with Portnoy and all and his buddies,
He's amazing. I mean, oh my God. Oh, Jimmy Page just came out with the new amp today, by the way.
Oh yes, Sun Dragon.
Yeah, the Sun Dragon.
I mean, not just today, because I'm like looking on.
I literally just saw that brand new from Jimmy Page. The dragon, the fire breather, or whatever, and reminded me of Knuckle Dragger for Jason.
I read it. It's been out.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
They had 2 versions they were selling. The limited edition, of which there were 50, and then the classic edition, of which there's as many as they can sell, I guess. But the limited edition one was sold out, and that was $12,000.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow.
Signed by Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
And now the unsigned version was like $3,500.
Okay.
It was it looked like it was the same exact amp. You can.
Is it made by a boutique amp builder, or who's?
Well, it seems like it's somebody that Jimmy knew.
Yeah.
That modeled it completely after his recording gear from the first album and the first probably 4 or 5 albums.
Right.
Supro and whatever other amps he wanted to include in it, but he's definitely promoting the hell out of it. I mean, he's right up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago.
Was he? Did he have that?
Yeah. I don't know who he was doing. He did an instrumental of some guy from like the 50s or 60s.
Oh yeah. You're talking about his performance.
Yeah. He performed. Yeah, first time in
Yeah.
10 years. You know, I don't know. People are still waiting for Zeppelin to get back to. It's never going to happen.
Don't
You know,
never.
I think Celebration Day was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you can't do any better than that. Like if you expect better than that, that's crazy. But like, I think every Zeppelin fan, now that they have that,
Yeah.
they're cool. You know what I mean?
Well, they went. You know, Page and Plant went out, the two of them, and toured a lot.
Right.
And it's just a shame that they didn't take John Paul Jones with them for whatever reason, monetary reasons. Maybe they figured, you know, they'd do just as well without him, you know. But
Too close to Zeppelin.
well, no, I mean, it could have been, you know, the guys they had playing were, you know,
Right.
they wanted to be Zeppelin, you know.
Right.
You know, anywhere on the stage with them, they're not thinking about being themselves. They want to be, you know, oh, we're playing with Jimmy Page. This is Led Zeppelin, you know.
Right.
But it would be nice, you know, for people to be able to say, you know, I'm going to get to go see these three guys with Jason. Jason's the only one that should do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jason's phenomenal.
There's a lot of drummers that could do it, you know, absolutely. But it's not like
you need the DNA in that
it's not like you need the best guy. And I'm not saying Jason isn't the best, but what I'm saying is you need, you know, the breed.
He's the perfect guy.
Have the, you know, the DNA.
You know, anyone can play an Eddie Van Halen lead, but
Yeah.
when Wolfgang plays it, the reason why he sounds so much like Eddie is because he's got that DNA in the way his joints move and the way that his fingers hit the there's all that stuff.
Much more special. It's more special. And Jason's just a phenomenal drummer. Lord knows he's been doing the Zeppelin evening with Led Zeppelin for so long. I mean, you know, he knew the stuff back and forwards when he was 10.
Right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
back when he was racing motorbikes, you know, but
yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So, is there any time frame? Are you guys taking your time on the writing of the new project?
Well, writing's pretty much done. We're just arranging, and I still have some lyrics to do, but we want it out next year. 2024 is going to be the year.
Nice.
You know, if it's not, you won't ever see me again. Going to hiding.
No, we'll all make a documentary. The guys from CreatiVity go in search of Randy Jackson.
I'll have a wolf mask
We
on.
found him. He's locked in the vocal booth.
Yeah,
that's going to be great, man. We're looking forward to it for sure.
Definitely.
it's
You
going
know,
to
it's going to be interesting to see what new material you guys come up at this point. You've lived a lot more life. You know, I'm sure you seem like the type of guy who constantly works on his craft. There's always something to learn.
Right,
you know?
right. So it's going to be an interesting album. We got a great blues song for it. I can tell you that.
Awesome.
And it's different. It's not your typical blues, but it's the blues, and you know it right away. You know when you hear it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that one.
You know, one of the things I've often said to Jason, I said, I wonder why a lot of these like older rockers, it would make sense if they just moved over to blues. Like for some people who can't hit a certain note, do the same stuff, maybe reimagine it, but do it in blues based. You have a whole new area of people.
Hey, look at the blues chart right now. Blues right now. Who's number one? Foghat.
Foghat is
number one blues record. Yeah, last week. Go check it out.
Oh wow!
Okay. I've listened to a few of their songs from the new album. I don't understand that, but I know Joe Bonamassa's up there, and then
I'm not talking about who's the best, but you're talking about rock and over. So,
right.
I didn't even know Foghat had something new out. I'm gonna definitely have to go check it out.
We almost did a tunage on him, but Anthony Gomes has been on the top 10 for almost a year. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you know who he is, but Billy Sheehan plays on 6 tracks of that. Ray Luzier plays on 6 tracks of that. But he's been around forever, and now he's finally gaining traction. You know, but he's a phenomenal, really great live too. So yeah, we're gonna be looking forward to some new Zebra. That would be awesome.
Definitely.
And you've been great, Randy. Like, totally enjoyed this interview. You couldn't have been nicer guy, you know. And when you come out with the new project, we'd love to have you back on.
Sure, I'd love to do that, and maybe I'll be at the top of the blues chart then.
Yeah. Oh, dude, totally. I'll be making graphics for days. But yeah, I mean, I love the blues, so it's gonna. I want to hear your take on it. That's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And for someone to come out and promote that they've done a blues song, like Joe Walsh supposedly went in to record a blues album about 8 years ago, and I've heard nothing after that.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's kind of like me, except I've been saying it for 20 years.
Right. Right. I go see Joe in March with the Eagles there, but anyway. Well, thank you, Randy. Fred, do you have any other questions you like?
No, I just want to say thank you very much. I did want to tell you one thing. I hope I got my facts straight. I did see Zebra backing up Sammy Hagar, Soldier Field back in Chicago, probably early 80s.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you remember that.
Yeah, I remember
phenomenal show. Phenomenal show. And that was when I first fell in love with you guys. And I said,
You were at
yes, bad. I was at that show, yeah.
Oh, now, let me ask you a question. I remember that show, not only because it was, at Soldier Field, but because...
Oh, did you go do Disco Demolition?
No, I don't know what that is, but
okay.
There was cup demolition. Do you remember the guy in front of the stage throwing the cups at me when I was playing? You remember that?
Yeah, I think I do remember that, yeah.
Like this high, and he was just like throwing them like this up at me. And I'm playing the acoustic guitar, trying to play Who's Behind the Door, and it took it away. But those are the stupid things you remember from these shows.
Yeah,
right?
I was at a Nugent concert at Soldier Field. Same thing, and they only allowed us to bring in empty water jugs, and of course, everybody filled them up with vodka, right? Because what are you going to do? And Nugent's up on stage, and a couple people threw some jugs up there, and of course, Ted goes, "All right, motherfuckers, bring it on!" And you just saw that whole swarm of jugs go, and he was knee deep in water jugs, and he's just jamming away. And he called, he said, "Bring it on, motherfuckers!" And they did. So
yeah,
it's a rock show. Right.
I miss those, man. And the crazy thing is, so Nugent, I don't remember what Sammy's ticket was, but we saw Nugent, REO, Skinnerd, The Outlaws, and 38 Special for $22.
Oh,
What the hell was it? I know, it was like 76, 5 major bands like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, you guys killed it that day, and sorry our Chicago people were throwing at you, but that's Chicago.
God, we had a great time at the show. It was fun.
Yeah, and I saw you at the Arcada in St. Charles last year. You were there, and I hope you'll be back again next year.
Yeah, we love the Arcada.
Yeah, that's a nice venue.
That's
so hope to see you there.
Jason, do you have anything left to ask or say, sir?
No, I'm happy that the white BC Rich is safe and sound, and
right. Absolutely. So yeah, next time you're in the arcade, I will definitely be going there with Fred to hang out and shake hands and rock out, of course.
Absolutely.
And the key.
Yep. Let's not forget. I still have some left. For a very
probably one hell of a collector's item. That's probably that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, is there one in a museum yet?
Well, if you go online, you can find a whole story about it. I don't know where you got that picture from, but there's a whole page dedicated to the key. I don't know if they've got it in a museum, but certainly it should be in some museum.
Right, for sure.
There are some left. I do have I have several left. So if there's a museum looking for the key, hey, got the Long Island Music Hall of Fame down the road. Maybe
yeah, why not? Why not? But anyway, everybody, so go check out some Zebra right now. Go buy some Zebra. Go buy anything that Randy Jackson puts out. Go buy his signature guitar. And where can we find those guitars, Randy?
Well, you definitely can find them at Sam Ash, and probably there are other music stores. I just couldn't tell you where, but I know that they're readily available at Ash.
All right, yeah, I like Sam Ash way over the other big chain. They're always nice to you when they walk in and they let you play. I had this one guy. I was at the other big chain store that I won't name, and so I'm playing the intro to a Lizzie Borden song, and this 21-year-old comes up. He goes, "No, it goes like this." I go, "Do you ever hear of Lizzie Borden?" He goes, "Who?" I said, "Dude, you just lost the sale. I was going to buy this drum kit. Now you're a jag off, and you literally took the sticks out of my hand."
Did he? Oh, he just took them, just wanting to get you to
So he
stop.
could sit down and play. I'm like, dude, if I wanted to see you play, I'd go see your fucking band.
So he didn't know the Lizzie Borden song. He just
No,
allowed
never even heard of Lizzie Borden.
Oh man! You should
And
have
I'm with
just
my son, who is like, it's his favorite song since he was a baby. You know, he just likes this one song.
you should
And
have
I'm like,
taken it.
okay, dude, I'm buying somewhere
Did he
else.
say Lizzie Borden? Who's she?
Yeah, right.
Which one is Lizzie?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, he's standing right next to Leonard Skinnard.
Yeah.
But anyway, Randy, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. And
Thank you, Randy.
I've
we will
enjoyed
talk to you soon. And everyone, please go out and buy some Zebra right now. Social media, anything you want to give out, Randy?
Yeah, they could just type in on Facebook Randy Jackson Zebra or Randy Jackson of Zebra or Zebra Band. Now, to go to the Zebra website, you just type in zebraband.com.
Right on.
Yep.
We're CreatiVity Talking. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks, Randy.